The Boys is coming to a close with Season 5, wrapping up its story of a very twisted superhero world and a covert group who are pushing back against the evil corporation who have been using superhero-fueled power and influence to get away with all sorts of terrible crimes, and a show that's pretty direct with how it's mirroring modern events. Since the series debuted back in 2019, there's been plenty of notable plot developments in the midst of the show's trademark graphic mixture of gore, action, sex, and much more that's always oh so vividly depicted.
You guys ready?
You know, like when that shrinking guy crawled inside that other guy's penis and then blew him up by growing full size again.
Yo, what the fuck?
So let's catch up on the story so far as we prep for the final season of The Boys. In the world of The Boys, superheroes, or supes as they are commonly referred to, have been fairly commonplace for decades, with most supes of significance falling under the control of Vought, a mega corporation with their fingers in pretty much every part of American lives. And the top of the heap among the supes are the Vought A-listers who comprise the team known as the Seven. Initially a not so thinly veiled distorted take on the Justice League, including a Superman type guy, a Wonder Woman type gal, a Flash guy, an Aquaman guy, and a Batman guy, Seven are not just crime fighters, they're monetized celebrities in every way Vought can squeeze a dollar out of.
Movie tickets, merchandising, theme parks, video games, a multi-billion-dollar global industry supported by corporate lobbyists and politicians on both sides.
They're the face of pop culture and are featured in brand deals, make music videos, and star in movies.
Title card, Dawn of the Seven, cut to black.
But many superheroes, including among the Seven, also secretly do absolutely awful things, which Huey Campbell finds out when the Seven speedster, A-Train, out of his mind on drugs, literally runs through Huey's girlfriend Robin, utterly pulverizing her in an instant.
I can't stop.
With Vought looking to pay him off and keep him quiet,
$45,000 in restitution.
the understandably furious Huey is exactly the kind of guy that Billy Butcher is looking for to help him in his quest to take down the Seven. Butcher reveals to Huey the truth about the twisted, debauchery-fueled life many supes indulge in, and how other innocents that have been maimed and killed along the way have been kept quiet by any means necessary by Vought to protect all the money they make off the superhero industry. Butcher's motivations are deeply personal because his wife, Becca, was a Vought employee who was raped by the Seven's incredibly powerful and beloved leader, Homelander, who is presented as a paragon of good to the public, but is in fact the most heartless, cruel, and ruthless so-called superhero imaginable. Becca vanished soon after this event, presumably having taken her own life or killed by Homelander, and Butcher now not only is out for revenge, but he generally despises all supes. To help him and Huey, he brings in two old allies known as Frenchie and MM, that's short for Mother's Milk, to reform the group and formally referred to as the Boys, who were originally recruited by former CIA operative Grace Mallory. And soon enough, the Boys have managed to nab the Seven team member Translucent and blow him the hell up when he tries to get away. At the same time, the Seven, who continuously have a very tough time actually keeping 7 members for very long, have recruited their newest member, Annie January, aka Starlight.
They always asked me what my wish was, and I always said to save the world.
Eager to do good and be a real hero, Annie is given a terrible lesson in what the Seven really are all about when she is sexually assaulted almost immediately by her teammate, the Deep, who threatens to have her kicked off the team if she doesn't comply. A chance encounter between Annie and Huey leads to a burgeoning relationship for the two, something Butcher pushes a reluctant Huey to exploit to gain intel. At the same time, the Boys get their first girl teammate and their first superpowered member when they encounter the mute Kamiko, who has incredible healing and regenerative powers, and Frenchie and Kamiko soon forge a strong bond. The Boys' investigation into A-Train's erratic behavior leads to the discovery that people aren't actually born with superpowers, as was long believed. They instead come from Compound V, a serum developed by Vought, which is something even most people born with powers, like Annie, didn't know, because they were injected with Compound V as babies, often with their parents' secret consent. A-Train has been dosing himself with more Compound V because it both causes a high and it temporarily increases his powers, even as it also acts like an addictive drug.
What are you grinning at?
Oh, I don't know, mate. Maybe it's because the Seven might just be a squad of manky roid heads.
The Seven is initially overseen by Vought's Madeline Sitwell, who uses Homelander's attraction to her and how disturbingly Oedipal it clearly is to better control him. But that ends when he finds out that she helped keep the secret that Becca is not only actually alive, she's been in hiding raising the son that resulted from Homelander's attack, leading Homelander to kill Madeline and taunt Butcher with the truth as well.
Wakey, wakey. Hey, buddy.
Soon after, Vought CEO Stan Edgar places a social media savvy superhero named Stormfront on the Seven, who it turns out is as vile as they come when she brutally murders Kamiko's fugitive brother Kenji, along with numerous bystanders, blaming it all on him being a so-called super terrorist. The seething racism that she displays against Kenji and even her own teammate A-Train turns out to hint at the truth.
Some people are quality and others are garbage.
Stormfront is a Nazi, as in a genuine World War II era Nazi who's over 100 years old. Her husband, Frederick Vought, not only founded the company that bears his name, but invented Compound V, and she was the first successful result of his experiments, looking unaged thanks to the effect of the earliest version of Compound V, called V1. Stormfront and Homelander become lovers, and she both reveals the truth to him about who she is, and gives him advice on how to manipulate the public. With both the Deep's assault on Annie and A-Train's drug addiction having gone public, the two are eventually both kicked off the Seven, finding refuge inside a cult, the Church of the Collective.
I can get you back in.
The Seven's Queen Maeve, meanwhile, feels increasingly awful and guilty about the things that she's seen and participated in as part of the Seven, especially after Homelander has them abandon an entire flight of people on a plane that's going down, dooming everyone on board to their death. Maeve recovers video from this event for potential leverage, even as her relationship with her girlfriend Elena is made public and cynically commodified by Vought.
Representation matters.
She's #Brave Maeve.
And Annie is working as a mole inside the Seven, getting info to Huey and eventually leaking the truth about Compound V to the public.
Superheroes are not born, but made.
Which in turn has Annie fully marked as an enemy by Vought, and she's captured by the Seven's ever-silent Black Noir, only for Huey to help break her out. The reveal of Compound V emboldens a young politician, Congresswoman Victoria Newman, who's positioned herself as someone standing up to Vought. But Vicky has a big secret, which is that she is a supe herself, with blood-bending abilities that she can use to, explode this dude's head, and this dude's, and another dude's, and in general to manipulate the situation from both sides to increase her own rise to power. Ryan becomes something rare for Homelander, someone that he actually cares about, even if it's still expressed through his own ego and narcissism. So he and Stormfront end up taking the boy from Becca, who's always tried to curtail the superpowers Ryan inherited from Homelander.
No, Ryan, no!
But determined to get back into the Seven and to get rid of Stormfront, A-Train discovers the truth about her and he gives the evidence to Huey and Annie to leak to the press to make her true identity public.
That Nazi.
The boys are joined by Annie in the fight to rescue Ryan from Homelander and Stormfront, and eventually by Queen Maeve, who has her big Han Solo moment of joining a battle that she'd earlier claimed she'd have no part in. When Stormfront is about to kill Becca, Ryan instinctively uses his heat vision for the first time, badly maiming Stormfront, but tragically, also killing Becca by accident. Help us! Sorry kid, here's a lifetime of trauma, and a sorrowful Butcher becomes determined to protect the boy he had previously wanted no part of due to his supe nature. And though she knows it won't hold him off forever, May blackmails Homelander with the airplane video, and Homelander is forced to grin and bear it as Starlight is let back into the Seven. With the cover story being that she was framed by Stormfront, who is positioned as the Nazi villain who duped all of the Seven, Homelander included. A-Train is also allowed back into the Seven as he hoped, while Vicky is given a new job heading up the government's Office of Supe Affairs, with Huey going to work for her. And the previous charges against the boys are dropped, as they are given a bit of actual government funding thanks to Victoria and Mallory. Vought also backs down from trying to sell Compound V, pushing cooperation between Stan Edgar and Victoria's office, which makes sense because Vicky is actually Stan's adopted daughter, which Huey digs into after discovering she's a supe. Very much on the kill Homelander train, Maeve sneaks Butcher some Temp V, an experimental variant of Compound V that grants someone superpowers for just 24 hours.
One shot makes you a supe for 24 hours.
and he begins to use it to face off with other supes he's hunting. And when Huey, feeling increasingly inadequate alongside Annie, discovers Temp V's existence, he too begins to take it. Vicky then betrays Stan, implicating him in crimes that leads to him being forced out as Vought CEO. And Homelander gets the Seven's continually overwhelmed Vought liaison, Ashley, made the new CEO because she'll do what he says, while he takes a more active role in decision-making for the company.
We look forward to working hand in glove under your tremendous and competent leadership, sir.
The hope to get the Seven back up to 7 members leads to the Deep being brought back to the team, where he is constantly demeaned and worse by Homelander, including made to feed on marine life that he considers to be his friends, yet he always accepts it, due to his desperation to be accepted by Homelander. Another new member, Supersonic, is an old boyfriend and ally of Annie's, who agrees to help her gather forces against Homelander, but Supersonic makes the mistake of bringing A-Train in on their long-term plan, who rats him out to gain favor with Homelander, who then quickly murders Supersonic.
Alex! Oh my god.
The hunt for a way to kill Homelander sends the boys to Russia, to find the weapon once used to kill Soldier Boy, a legendary V1-powered supe who is nearly as powerful as Homelander. Instead, they discover Soldier Boy himself in stasis, learning he was never killed in the first place, but was experimented on by the Russians, and now is capable of creating massive energy blasts that can be lethal, but also can take the powers from another supe, and which he can barely control thanks to his PTSD. Against the objections of the rest of the team except for Huey, the increasingly single-minded Butcher makes a deal with Soldier Boy, who agrees to kill Homelander for him if Butcher and Huey help him hunt down the rest of his former team, Payback, who sold him out to the Russians thanks to his own awful treatment of them. That team included Black Noir, who Soldier Boy nearly killed, leaving him permanently disfigured and mentally damaged. This new plan leads to a huge confrontation at the superhero orgy known as Herogasm. And when Homelander is nearly defeated by Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Huey working together, he's forced to actually flee from them. But an out-of-control Soldier Boy doesn't just kill his intended targets, but many innocent people as well, which is finally too much for Annie to stay silent on. She uses her massive online following to reveal the dark truths about Soldier Boy's return, and he and Homelander's true nature, and to officially leave the Seven.
My name is Annie January, and I f***ing quit.
As Soldier Boy's revenge tour continues, he makes a shocking discovery thanks to one of Payback. The lab-bred Homelander is, technically speaking, Soldier Boy's son, created from DNA taken from him by Vought.
If they'd have just kept me around, I'd have let you take the spotlight. What father wouldn't want that for his son?
When Homelander learns this as well, he wants to try to connect with the father he never knew, so when Black Noir makes it clear that he will only accept Soldier Boy's death, Homelander kills him. With Maeve joining them, Butcher is first relieved when this new family connection does not dissuade Soldier Boy from going through with a willingness to kill Homelander, but things take a turn when Ryan, who Homelander has recently tracked down and taken back to Vought, intervenes to save his father. And it turns out Soldier Boy is just as willing to kill his young grandson. To save the boy they both care for, Butcher and Homelander oh so briefly actually team up, followed by furious fights between Soldier Boy and Butcher, and Homelander and Maeve, during which Maeve loses an eye. When the boys get the drop on Soldier Boy, with the same gas the Russians used to knock him out for decades, he prepares to shoot his energy blast, and Maeve gets him away from everyone, seemingly sacrificing herself. But in truth, she survives, albeit now powerless thanks to Soldier Boy. Maeve and Elena then go off to parts unknown together to live a happy, off-the-grid life, while Soldier Boy is put back in stasis, this time by the US government. During all of this, Homelander's cheerful, hero of the people facade has been cracking. Even before Annie's statements about him, as he lashed out to the public about he was better than all of them.
I'm not just like the rest of you. I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better.
Only to find that many supported him even more thanks to this attitude. And though he denies Annie's worst accusations, when someone throws a bottle at him and it accidentally hits Ryan, he reacts without thinking, murdering the man in front of his fans, who then cheer him on for this as well. Distraught after Ryan decides he'd rather stay with Homelander, Butcher then gets even more bad news. Vicky and Huey were warned that continued use of Temp V could be fatal, and while Huey stopped taking it, Butcher continued, and the result is he has developed a tumor and will die within the next 18 months.
How long ago?
Months. 12, 18 on the outside.
As for Vicky, she continues to ascend, becoming the vice president nominee alongside presidential hopeful Robert Singer, who's running on a campaign based around curbing the influence of Vought and superheroes. We won't go into all the specifics on The Boys spin-off series Gen V, which is set at Godalming University, aka God U, a school for young supes, but there are definitely some events that loom large on The Boys.
Got it. Get it. Got it. Good.
It's in Gen V's first season that we learn that Vought had commissioned the development of a virus, which would specifically target supes in order to control them if needed, and that virus had now become lethal under the orders of God U's human dean, Indira Shetty, who secretly hated all supes thanks to losing her husband and daughter on that flight that Homelander let go down. Mallory Grace turns down Shetty's offer to partner, outraged by the outright genocidal approach that Shetty is discussing, as she posits making the virus airborne and lethal to every supe on Earth.
We'll be able to neutralize them once and for all.
But in the wake of Shetty's death, Vicky is able to get a hold of samples of the virus, while Butcher also learns about its existence and is tantalized by the possibilities. It's a busy time for Vicky, who soon after becomes the impending vice president, as Singer and her win the election. Even as Singer, now knowing the truth about Vicky, colludes with Grace and the boys to somehow take her out before he takes office.
Eliminating her is top priority.
So do your job.
And thanks to the Compound V that Vicky got from Homelander as part of her deal to sell out Stan, her daughter, Zoe, now has deadly powers too. Thanks to his tumor, Butcher begins to see visions of the dead in the form of both Becca and his old war buddy, Joe Kessler, who essentially act like the angel and devil on his shoulders, with Kessler encouraging his darker impulses to kill all supes. Fed up with this behavior, MM pushes Butcher to the side and more actively becomes the boys' leader. Having tried to use Compound V in a failed Hail Mary to save his life, Butcher does still develop permanent powers that he keeps from the others, though he initially blacks out when he uses them. Over at the Seven, Vought keeps word of Black Noir's death secret by simply putting another person in the costume, albeit someone who's pretty unhappy sticking to the last guy's masked, silent deal.
You ever meet a black ninja?
Don't lower your voice.
There's nobody here.
But still, recruitment is again needed, and new members are found with Firecracker and Sister Sage. The self-proclaimed smartest person in the world, Sage is also a true believer in superheroes being superior to everyone else, and she impresses Homelander with her advice about how it's better to rule over the masses than kill them all, but that you need to manipulate them to turn on each other first, so you can be the one to come in and save them.
The people will tear it apart themselves. Just gotta nudge them a little.
And it's Sage who brings in Firecracker, believing that her far-right podcaster and conspiracy theorist persona will continue to galvanize the public to their benefit. Homelander begins to trust Sage so much that he gives her Ashley's CEO responsibilities, pushing Ashley aside into a figurehead role.
Well, Sage is going to take over your workload. For all intents and purposes, she's the new CEO.
Homelander is also having Ryan positioned as a new young superhero, even as Ryan bristles at Homelander's lack of caring about non-superhumans.
Accidents happen all the time, okay? Humans are fragile.
A-Train begins to further rebel against the Seven and Vought and secretly helps the boys, including sneaking evidence of murders that Homelander had members of the Seven commit to frame Annie's followers, the Starlighters, and then actually saving Huey's life when Huey's nearly killed by Homelander. At the same time, Annie reluctantly begins publicly using the name Starlight again, recognizing it has become important as a symbol. The new members of the Seven bring more uncomfortable sexual shenanigans to the team, with Sage, often overwhelmed by her own incredible depth of knowledge, temporarily lobotomizing herself before her brain continually grows itself back while she sleeps with the dim-witted Deep.
Oh, God.
And Firecracker is happy to take on the ever-gross mommy role that Homelander is always seeking, even medically inducing lactation to do so, and yeah, it's icky and weird per usual for Homelander.
I'd do anything for you.
After A-Train once more risks his own life breaking into Homelander's apartment to steal Compound V for Huey, who hopes that it can miraculously save his brain-dead father, Huey finally makes peace with A-Train for what happened to Robin.
We're good.
though things go horribly wrong giving Huey's dad the V, turning him into a confused accidental murderer before Huey and his mother grant his request to euthanize him.
I'm scared.
Hey, Dad, it's okay. Hey, I'm right here. I'm right here.
After Butcher reveals the existence of the soup virus to the boys,
The answer to all our prayers.
Butcher and MM make a deal with Stan Edgar to get him both a pardon and custody of his granddaughter Zoe if he will help them find where Vicky has the virus, with Butcher hoping to upgrade it to the point where it can kill Homelander. Vicky's arrival at the lab she's created to test the virus leads to a truce between them all to find her missing scientist, Samir, who's also Zoe's father. But after that search leads to no virus and Samir vanishing, a regretful Vicky frees Stan when he's on his way back to prison with her usual head-exploding methods. Meanwhile, though, it's Butcher and his non-existent buddy Kessler who are the ones who actually have taken Samir, forcing him to make more of the virus in secret.
You're gonna make us some more of that virus.
Spying on a party attended by the incredibly elite and corrupt, the boys discover just how insidious Homelander and Sage's plan is, which first involves having Singer killed, and then getting Vicky in place as the new president.
Victoria here, she's an integral part of the plan. She sees up close what a doddering slave to the woke mob Singer really is.
And for those who would oppose them, they will turn billionaire superhero Tech Knight's private prisons into internment camps, though Tech Knight himself won't live to see that thanks to his vengeful Alfred-like butler. MM collapses thanks to a full-blown panic attack during the mission at Tech Knight's, and is rushed to the hospital by A-Train. MM is then going to run away with his family, but A-Train convinces him to send them to safety but stay and fight himself, noting Homelander's plans will only eventually bring this threat worldwide.
Where's your family gonna go then?
When Homelander sends Black Noir 2 and the Deep to outright kill Butcher and Annie, A-Train finally directly intervenes, revealing to the Seven that he's betrayed them and sided with the boys.
Just FYI, I have always hated your ass.
But Ashley is too scared to leave with him when he tells her this is their one chance to make it out. Soon after, a shapeshifter kidnaps and impersonates Annie, intending to assassinate Singer on the day the election results are to be certified, January 6th, and then stage Homelander's coup. Again, the boys isn't subtle with his analogies. When the Seven decide to kill anyone at Vought that they believe have damning evidence against them, in anticipation of what's about to occur, Ashley learns she's a target, and she breaks into Homelander's apartment and takes Compound V in an attempt to save herself, and begins to go through a transformation as a result. The shifter is stopped from killing Singer after the real Annie frees herself and kills the imposter. In the aftermath, processing learning about Homelander's plans for the internment camps, and also him directly threatening Zoe, Vicky calls Huey and offers to resign and to give the boys all the info she has if they can protect her and her daughter. Huey overcomes the skepticism of the others, noting they've all done awful things and that he thinks Vicky is being sincere, though as a precaution they still take with them the one sample of the virus they have left after Samir managed to escape. Kimiko is then inspired to tell Frenchie she has always resisted being with him romantically because of her own self-loathing for her own past crimes, but now, affected by what Huey said, she and Frenchie finally share their first mutual, passionate kiss. But the boys' big deal with Vicky ends up going sour in a big way thanks to Butcher, who's closer to death than ever. When he and Grace try to convince Ryan to go with her and not return to Homelander, Grace decides to be completely truthful, telling Ryan about just how much murder and mayhem his father has been responsible for, and even that Homelander raped Becca. But when Ryan is told that he may be the final hope to stop Homelander, as in eventually having to kill him, a distraught Ryan lashes out when Grace tries to stop him from leaving, killing her in the process. This tragic series of events causes Butcher to go back to his darkest tendencies, intervening when the boys are meeting with Vicky,
No deals.
before revealing his new crazy tentacles from his chest powers and tearing Vicky in half. And when Frenchie can't bring himself to use the virus against Butcher, Butcher takes the virus with him and once more is pondering using it to kill all Supes. With Vicky dead, Homelander thinks his plan is ruined until Sage reveals she was pulling far more strings than it appeared, playing a long con beyond even what Homelander knew. This included getting Singer on video, discussing wanting Vicky killed, leading Singer to be arrested, and the 25th Amendment evoked, and for the new president, former Speaker of the House Stephen Calhoun, to be a puppet who will go along with whatever Homelander wants. And what that turns out to be is martial law being declared and Homelander given jurisdiction over a new army of deputized supes. The boys scatter to protect themselves, only to all be promptly hunted down by Homelander's forces. A mind-controlled Frenchie and Kimiko are separated by Gen V's Kate Dunlap and Sam Reardon, causing Kimiko to speak for the first time since childhood. But while Huey is grabbed before Annie can stop it, she is able to escape her captors and fly off to safety. All while Homelander learns from President Calhoun that the government has his father, Soldier Boy. And thus, we are caught up on the boys.
You're all welcome.
Oh, but wait, hold on. There was another season of Gen V after that, with some plot points that feel pretty relevant to the boys. Gen V Season 2 begins with Bloodbender Marie Moreau a fugitive after the events of the first season. But when a bounty hunter supe finds her, she is saved by Annie.
Hey, Marie.
Annie asks Marie to accept Vought's deal to return to Godolphin University because she wants her to investigate the possible revival of Project Odessa, which began at the school in the 1960s under the direction of Thomas Godolphin, who co-founded God U with Frederick Vought. And Marie discovers she herself is a product of this program. Though Thomas Godolphin was thought to be long dead, he in fact is hiding in plain sight, inhabiting the body of Godolphin's new dean, Cypher. And it turns out his secret partner and lover is Sage, who's also been officially made CEO of Vought thanks to the still unrevealed status of Ashley. When Godolphin sends one of his superpowered thugs to bring Marie to him, she and her friends are saved by Zoe Newman, joined by her grandfather, Stan Edgar.
Found her.
Stan explains to Marie how Project Odessa was intended to create godlike, unstoppable supes, but was mostly plagued with failure and death.
Only 2 subjects have survived. You, of course, Marie. And in the 80s, Homelander.
Godolphin is eventually restored to his healed original body, which hasn't aged thanks to him taking V1, and Black Noir captures Godolphin's enemy, Polarity, for Sage. As it turns out, Sage was once more the puppet master behind much of what was recently occurring, including making sure Annie was fed the info about Project Odessa, and that Marie was sent back to God U. Godolphin then publicly reveals he's alive and that he's a superhero, and he begins a dark survival of the fittest plan to gather what he sees as the lesser, weaker supes, using his powers of possession to make them attack and kill each other. But Sage is very much against this, noting this is not part of what they discussed, as he says his ultimate goal is to hone his own power enough that he can control Marie, setting him on the path for his next step.
If I'm strong enough to control one Odessa baby, that means I'm strong enough to control the other one.
Unable to get Godolphin to back off, Sage decides she cannot let him disrupt her plans, and she frees Polarity in order to send him towards Godolphin. After Polarity and Marie are indeed able to stop Godolphin, with Marie delivering a Vicky-inspired finishing move, Marie flees the school with other like-minded, anti-Vought folks, including Kate and Sam, who've reconsidered their true allegiances, and their friends Jordan Lee, Emma Meyer, and Marie's sister Annabeth. And they are found by Starlight and A-Train, who invite them into their growing resistance.
You want to join the resistance?
And aim them right towards the boys Season 5. We'll find out how everything pays off, and just who survives it, when the 5th and final season of The Boys debuts April 8th. And for more on The Boys, and for everything TV and movies, you're at the right place, IGN.